I'm halfway through this training, and it's a hot one, man. I got a good message for you though, so stay tuned, because I'm going to tell you how I train, why I train, and how you can apply it to your life, because it's pretty cool when you think about it. Stay tuned.
I am of the pure mind of God. I am the resurrection and the life in my body, my finances, my relationships, and my world. I qualify everything in my world with perfection. I am perfection. I am this perfect day, and the life that lives in me is the light that cannot fail. I accept only God's perfection. He is good in my outer circumstances. I know in my heart that God is all in all. I am absolutely not concerned about what happens, because I know wonderful things are happening now.
So today I'm going to share with you how I how I eat, how I train, how I process things, what are some of the principles that I stand by. And it's not because, you want to be like me. It's because essentially the majority of my day is spent trying to assimilate what the wisdom principle is behind prosperity. Everything that I do in our ministry is really a prosperity ministry. So prosperity does not mean just money, but it does include money, absolutely. And it includes the flourishing of all good in your life. That's prospering, was when all the good is made manifest in your life. That's your physical, what you call physical energy. It's your relationships, it's harmony within those relationships. And it's also, the abundance in your pocketbook, whatever you call that pocketbook. If it's your gold, your silver, your crypto, your dollars, it doesn't matter. It's all ideas, and back of those ideas, the wisdom, of the Creator itself is where I spend the majority of my time and focus, and that's what our ministry rests upon, is that bedrock. So, hello. It is a humid one out here, and it's hot, and I'm doing what I call, this is my I call it the CONCAP training, Conscious Capacity Warrior training. So let's get into that in just a moment. First thing I want to do is clear up the money thing real quick for everybody. I'm going to give you 3 keys that are so simple for money that if you can't do these, then you shouldn't worry about money, because it's not for you. The first key is that you should tithe, to where you receive your spiritual nourishment. Because it's been a biblical commandment, it's been around for thousands of years. The morphogenic field is very, very powerful in that current, that riptide, if you will. It's the only thing that creates supernatural expectation. Now, you get in life what you expect and what you negotiate, all right? So first of all, never negotiate with a giver. When God says, these are the principles, tithe and you shall prosper, I shall open up the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, so much so that you won't have enough room to receive it. Why are you trying to go against a principle like that? It doesn't make any sense. It's not my will, but it's thine will be done. My will is supposed to be used to put me in the will of God. It's supposed to be used to choose the will of God. To choose outside of the will of God is ignorance, and therefore it brings consequence, it brings suffering. Now, in the physics, you look at the centrifugal divergent, loss of energy. It's what you'd call the mushroom cloud in a nuclear explosion, right? The big explosion of volume is what they would call time-space. It's actually the loss of inertia, loss of energy. It's what you call your extended hologram, your world. Now, the centripetal convergence, which is the 0 point, which is the title of my new book, Ultimate Truth is Love, 0 point, when you return to the stillness, to the 0 point. In other words, when you bring back to God what belongs to God, Isn't that interesting? It happens on all levels, right? And we're going to talk about that today. The first thing is your currency. Currency belongs to God. It doesn't belong to you. It's an idea in the mind of God. And all provision has to be divine love for God's man, God's manifest. Divine love always takes care of every human need and always will take care of every human need. What does God require? For you to know, love, and trust the Father. How are you going to know, love, and trust the Father if you have not performed, under the governance of what the Father has ordained for you? You can't. So therefore, if you don't operate under that governance, you're operating outside of that governance, which means you're in the Babylonian debt slave system. So that is centrifugal, divergent loss of power. Therefore, it's all based on human reasoning. It's all, an illusion. Tithing is the only thing that breaks the back of fear over your finances, because it allows you to know, love, and trust the Father through the Father's prove. It says, prove me now in the Bible. By proving the Father, that's it. Then the next thing is you go where the money's going. You engage with where the action is going. Would you go out in the lake if the fish weren't biting and fish on a day if they're not biting? Or would you rather go right after, maybe it's been raining a few days, everything's perfect, the fish are biting. Would you rather go on a day like that? Of course. Why would you rather do that? Well, because it's sort of a downstream thing. Because if the money is going in a certain direction, wouldn't you want to be where all the money's going? Wouldn't you want to insert yourself into that equation? How are you going to know where that is? Well, they call it the smart money versus the dumb money. So smart money, people that are involved in smart money are usually the forerunners, the front runners of market trends and cycles. And here's how you identify them. Typically, they have lots and lots and lots of money. Pretty simple, right? Well, what are they doing? Not what are they saying, what are they doing? See, a man of wisdom would find out what they are doing and forerun with them and get in front of that trend. And if you don't know, then be one with omniscient one mind, because you already are, and be of the one mind, and therefore you shall know. Quite simple, right? And aside from that, the third key is that you will only earn the average of your 5 closest friends or your spheres of influence that you associate with. If you associate with bums that are broke, you're going to have an anchor that draws down your prosperity to the degree of the lowest common denominator, period. So here's how I like to work this out, because it's a universal balance of giving and receiving. So up on the upper threshold, you have those that are way, way, way far more prosperous than you, okay? That should be like a third of your influence, right? How do you find them if you're not involved with them? Well, I wrote a method called the Salute Method in my book, Ask Until It's Given. It's very powerful in getting access to people that are far above your reach. But aside from that, you can find them through their podcasts, through their videos, through their books. See, when you mentally associate with them, what does it mean? It means you're engaging with their ideas. They have different thinking capacity. Their volition of thought is different than yours. You want to be exposed to that because it changes the way you perceive the world. You perceive a world based on the ideas that you're contemplating. Now, the second group is the people that are at the same level of you. Similarity brings comfort, okay? This should bring discomfort up here because they show you that there's a long way for you to grow. And here's comfort where you're at, and then down here is where you can contribute and give back. So a third of your friends are up here, a third of your friends at the same level as you, and a third of your friends, you are contributing to them. Now, that's an amazing prosperity cycle because here's the deal. You're not supposed to hoard wisdom and intelligence and all the good things that are given to you. You're supposed to give. Give. What comes through you sticks to you. What comes through you sticks to you. What comes through you sticks to you. See, as you give more, you increase your volume, your capacity to give more, period. There's your prosperity tips. So incredibly simple. Those are principles. Okay, now that's not strategies and methods. You build strategies and methods on top of principles. Principles are the blueprint foundation. You don't have a blueprint foundation, it doesn't matter how good your strategy is because it's ultimately going to collapse because you have nothing to rest upon. You're on quicksand if you don't have principle. Wisdom is the principal thing. Out of the way. There's your prosperity tips. Watch it again if you didn't get it. Now, let's talk about this thing. Somebody asked me, how do you train? What is this deal you do? I call it the calorie cycling, right? I do calorie cycling. So let me give you an example. First, I got to get started here because it is only going to get hotter as the day goes. So let me just start moving. So today is a calorie deficit day. And as it describes, essentially my consumption of calories through the burn process of just being alive will be more than I consume today. And you say, well, how is that done? Okay, here's how it's done. today I will only consume, and these will be primarily mostly just protein calories. Just protein and a little fat and a tiny bit of carbs. The calories that are equal to or less than the degree of my physical activity, which means this morning's training, which I will run and sprint these hills, okay, about 20 times today. That's what's on the agenda this morning. 10 times up slow, 10 times up fast with the weight vest on. That starts the tone. I'd gather that'd be about 350 calories or so. And then therefore I also walked about a mile to the post office and back. So I've got about 450 calories, you could say, right now that I am actively burning, okay? Now, in addition to that, I'm going to walk about 7 miles on the pier today, and that's quality time for me. So what I do with those walks, if I'm not streaming a video that I put on YouTube, is I study, I listen to audible books, I meditate, I pray. I always do something in conjunction with that active leisure, right? But that walk should burn about 600 plus calories. So roughly I'm at about 1,000 calories there. And then tonight, when the sun goes down, because I hit an old school gym up that doesn't have air conditioning, we have to open all the windows, put the fans in, etc., is heavy deadlifts. And that should burn about 400 calories or so right there too. So I have about a 1,400 calorie need for my physical activity today. Now, to the degree of my physical activity or less, I will eat primarily just protein calories. Okay, the building blocks of what they call muscle, I would just eat protein for that. Okay, lean, steak, chicken, tuna, protein shake. It doesn't matter. It's just mostly just protein. I will not touch soy protein. I'll never touch that with a 10-foot pole. It's estrogenic, and I don't want none of that crap in my body. I don't touch the pea protein, the hemp protein, the rice protein, and a lot of those other things either, because ultimately, a lot of the companies that make that stuff tend to slip soy in there. And I hate to say it, but the idea that I'm trying to work on is not to aromatase, estrogenize my body, because I kind of like having a real high testosterone, and I have a very, very, very high testosterone. I don't take testosterone, but the way that this seems to work out, it's called the anabolic diet, and it was talked about by Bill Phillips and the late, what was his name? Oh God, Dan Duchaine, who created Body Opus. And what I do is a modification of that. So today I have a need. Once these trainings are done, okay, I'll have to have about 1,400 calories of active calories, and I'll do that in protein with a little bit of carbs and a little bit of fat. Carbs will not exceed 50 grams, and fat will be probably just enough, maybe a scoop of a tablespoon of peanut butter or something. That's about it. Now, since my body's mostly all lean muscle, it requires at least about 1,800 a day just to, I guess, sit around and breathe and to just maintain its current position, okay? That's the leisurely resting metabolic rate. I will not consume those calories today or tomorrow. Okay, so I have 2 days and possibly a third day, depending on how my energy levels hold up. The idea here is to run this thing out, run the course of this thing as far as I can go, either 2 to 3 days, until my energy reserves are pretty much to the point where I get the need for a massive refuel. So then, after that's done, I still do another training day, but here's what it looks like. Last night was a refuel day. So I did I did 2 workouts yesterday, and I did the hill sprint cardio here. And I was on a low calorie deficit up until about 7 o'clock, and then I did a refuel in the night. What does that look like? It looks like 4 pieces of cheesecake, a cinnamon roll, and fries and 2 hamburgers. And you say, holy crap, that's like 4,000 calories, like all in one sitting. And I say, exactly. Because the days that I'm only eating my active needs, like today, tomorrow, and the next day, I'm creating a deficit of about 2,000 every day. And you see what that does is that allows for a massive surplus and then a spike down. Now, after that massive surplus, you see, the body thinks it's going to have to keep working really, really hard because I just overloaded it massively. All right. Now, also, my body is also going to absorb a lot of that stuff and convert it through insulin into muscle. All right. Because guess what? Immediately after that, that window of consumption is about 4 to 5 hours. Okay. After that is going to be just protein again, just protein, just protein, just protein. So what's the body going to have to absorb after that one meal? It can only absorb so much at one given time. So the next few days, it's absorbing protein, 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 protein. Now, what I've discovered from experience is that I get relatively really, really lean. All right? And I've gotten as lean as, if you look in the book, Asking Till It's Given, I put a picture of myself in there. You can see veins coming up through my stomach all the way up, through my chest. And that's really in the single digits, nearing in towards, 6% or so. And that's still training every day. That's not, too weak to lift and, stage prepared where you pass out from dehydration or anything like that. That's still active, all right? But that's me. That's my consciousness. That's where I'm at. It may or may not be right for you. But what I love about it is, you see, what I've discovered is that if I just say I'm going to eat 2,000 calories a day and I'm just going to do that for a month and see how that goes. First of all, anything you do over and over again without changing it up, the body is very, very intelligent, and it will catch on to what you're doing, and it will cease being as effective as it was. So, with that said, that's why you change your workouts up every now and then. That's why you don't do the same workout every single week, every single time, because your body will no longer respond to it the same anymore. Well, you change your consumption patterns up that way too, and the body will change. So every now and then, with the same structure in mind of anabolic surplus, anabolic, and then deficiency, right? I will also change up what I consume. So last night was the cheesecake and all the carb. Now, there may be a time I'll switch over and do that in a keto way for a while. And the reason why I do it is not because I love keto. It's not because I love high carbs. It's because what I'm doing is I'm not giving my body the opportunity to go ahead and set a base point at a low level of anything, or to get so used to one thing that it stops responding, all right? It's the same methodology. But that's what works for me. It may not work for everybody, okay? It works for my particular style of training. Just keto alone doesn't work for me. I can't, literally, I try to train heavy and hard, and I just lose power on keto. Like, I can walk forever. I mean, yeah, crystal clarity, focus of mind, great. But without that spike of carbohydrate every now and then, I just feel flat. I feel like there's no power, there's no drive, and I can't assimilate speed the way that I can when I have carbs. So that's me. That's my body. That's my consciousness. Now, that's my structure of how I take in calories. Now, I will say this. Everything is consciousness. So, when I do train on days like today, I know that I survive because spirit nourishes its own manifestation. Kind of like a breatharian can take light in. They don't need water and food because their consciousness is tuned into believing that they derive all things from, Gaia, from Mother Earth, etc. That's what they believe, that they can just, breathe in prana, light, and they can also ground, and they can bring in the electromagnetic fields. Okay, that is just a consciousness, by the way. All right, it's a collectively held belief that you can plug into if that suits you. It doesn't suit me because I actually do like to eat. Okay, it's just enjoyable to me. Now, but on days like today, I know that I don't need the extra calories. I know that I don't need any of it. I know that it's just a belief. So therefore, what I plug into is the belief that my muscles are going to use protein as fuel, and it's not going to be able to store anything extra. It's just going to get used up, and the rest of it's just going to be fat burning all day long. That's my belief, and I'm sticking to it. Now, on the surplus days, I do something interesting as well that you might say, wow, that's crazy. Okay, so here's what I do. When I consume, gluttonous amounts, like a 4,000 plus calorie window of 4 to 5 hours, when I'm really just taking in a lion's share of material substance, I hold in my imagination the idea that there is no deficiency and no excess anywhere in spirit. So what that looks like is it looks like the image of perfect abs still in mind. I never visualize myself getting fat when I'm eating that food. I visualize myself getting skinnier because I say to myself that my metabolism is getting faster because I'm forcing it to work harder, and it's going to work harder for the next 3 days because I just kicked it into prime gear. And see, according to your belief, it is done unto you. So that is how I eat. Now, in terms of training, when I go along, what I do is, you see, the warm-up sets, other than just warming up, are designed for me to start rooting my thought to the idea that it is not flesh, bone, blood, muscle, oxygen, nitrogen, protein, carbs, fats, none of that stuff. What I do is I say spirit alone is moving within itself as mind activity, and I am engaging in that activity because I live, move, and have my being in pure spirit. And so as I hold to that idea, see, that's the conscious capacity. What capacity can I get to? So in other words, when it starts to burn, like for instance, right now I feel some lactic acid and I'm already drenched. It's already like so humid. What I say to myself is, this is when I have to shift my mental framework off of a physical body. Okay, absent from the body and present with the Lord. Okay, present with the governing idea that spirit is, and there is no counterfeit substrate of material phenomenon. It's all spirit. So therefore, what moves? Spirit. What do I know about spirit? It's limitless. What else do I know about it? It's exhaustless. What else do I know about it? It's infinite potential. So I am infinite potential. That was the third thing. I am infinite potential. That's the heart of the matter. So what I will hold on to as I train today is I am infinite potential. So as I continue to go and I start going faster, and it starts, the mortal mind, the human mind, starts to tell me that it hurts, I'm out of breath, I'm sweating, it's really hot, I just remember, I am infinite potential. And see, the warrior part of the training is how disciplined am I to stay rooted in that thought when all else is crying for my attention. When the body says it hurts, when the mind of the flesh, carnal mind, says it's tired, when the body says I'm drenched, I'm too hot, all of these things are thoughts. Everything is a thought. So, can I deny those thoughts and hold to the principal idea that I am infinite potential? And how long can I hold to it? It's a discipline. And so I use my training as a spiritual practice to hold on to a spiritual idea in the face or the appearance of a material confusion. So that is my training in a nutshell. Hope you got something out of this. See you in the next video.